Hello, National Fives. Today we're doing the second lesson on the sine rule. Now, in the last lesson, we learned how to calculate the length of a side, but this time we're going to learn how to calculate the size of an angle. Now, as you can see, we've got two formulas written down here. Now, the first one is what's written in your formula sheet, and the formula that we wrote down last lesson when we were doing sine rule to calculate a side. To make the calculation easier when you're working out an angle, it's much easier if you just invert all the fractions and you just write it. Now, it obviously just equals the same, but it just makes it easier when you're moving things about in the equations. So when you're working out the angle, you put the angles on the top. When you're working out the sides, you put the sides on the top. Now, just a reminder of the previous lesson, just to show the similarities. Now, the last time we got into working out a side if we were using the sine rule. Now, how we do this, so we say we're using the sine rule, so A over sin A equals B over sin B equals C over sin C. Now, how we ended up doing it, we agreed that we weren't doing the ticking and the crossing out, we would just do it by the arrows. So we can say, well, R over the sin of 25 equals 12 over the sin of 41 degrees. And we write that as our formula. And then how do you solve for R? Well, that's sine of 25 degrees. That, because it's dividing there, that'll go over and multiply. So it becomes 12 multiplied by sin 25 divided by the sin of 41. And type that in your calculator, make sure your calculator's in degrees, and you should get 7.73. Now, we have covered that before, so that's not new. Now, example 1 of calculating an angle, this is what it would look like. So, as you can see, it's shaded in the angle. I'll calculate the size of angle ACB. So C is in the middle, so it's at C. Okay. So we're doing sine rule, so we'll just write the sine rule down. But as you can see, I've written, because we're working out angles, we write angles on the top. And so we go with pairs. So C goes with the 11.4. So what we would say is that goes with that. And 8. So you've got sin C over 11.4 equals 8, no, sorry, apologies, sin C over 11.4 equals the sin of 36 over 8.2, like that. Once you've got that in, it's very similar. So what's in the bottom here, we're going to have to work out sin C first. So the 11.4 is dividing, it will go over and multiply. And then you work this out in your calculator. 11.4 multiplied by sin of 36 divided by 8.2. So sin of C is 0.817. Now, that's not your final answer. Your angle is not 0.817. And what you do when you're working out an angle, to work out the angle C or the angle ACB, you do sin to the minus 1, 0.817, and you should get 54.8 degrees. Example 2. So as you can see, we're working out angle R, PRQ. So we're working out angles, so we put angles on the top. Again, using arrows again. So it's the sin of R, or sine of R, over 12.4 equals sin of 24 all over 7.3. 12.4 is dividing, goes over and multiplies. 12.4 multiplied by the sin of 24 all over 7.3. Again, you get a decimal answer, 0.691. That's the sine of angle R. So how do you work out angle R or angle PRQ? Sin to the minus 1 of that, which is 43.7 degrees. Example 3. So we've got x is y, z, x. So you just look at your arrows again. Your arrows are going to work. So we're using the sine rule, working out angles, so angles are on the top. So it's sine of z over 8.7 equals sine of 102 all over 10.8, like that. 8.7 goes over and multiplies. Work that out in your calculator and you should get 0.788. Keep that number in your calculator, do sin to the minus 1 over the answer, and your angle YZX is 52.0 degrees. Now, one last example, which is a wee bit trickier, and it's something we'll just mention just in case it crops up. It's something we'll revisit again in Unit 3 when we do trim graphs. But as we say, we're looking for an angle again, so let's just do it same as always. So angles on the top, so we're looking at angles. So sin of A over 14.3 equals sin of 29 all over 7.3. 14.3 goes over multiplies, and sin of angle A is 0.950. Everything exactly the same. So we'll work out the angle, we'll do sin to the minus 1, and we get 71.8 degrees. But we have a slight problem, because the question says work out the obtuse angle. Now obtuse means between 90 and 180. So there's a slight problem here. Now in maths, and as I said, you'll learn more about this in Unit 3, but the sin of an angle x is the same as the sin of 180 minus that number. So putting that in numbers, for example, the sin of 30, if you type that in your calculator, get a value equals, is the same value as the sin of 150. The sin of 70 is the same as 110, because 110 is 180 minus 70 and 150 is 180 minus 30. Okay. Now this is just a small little complicated bit at the end. So when you get an answer for sin, it can be this or another answer. It can be 71.8 or 180 minus that. And in this case, because it said the answer was an obtuse, it must be the bigger one. If it doesn't say anything about obtuse, just don't worry about it. So 180 minus 71.8 is 108.2 degrees. Okay, so now you've got some questions to do. Good luck.